Hey guys, it's Aseem Sharma, training manager from Solframe Consulting. Again, I do hope you're all doing well. Today I would like to discuss about dealing with fear. And this is something which I have discussed previously last year, but I'm not sure whether all of you guys have actually watched that. So this is kind of an expansion, but it's specifically focused on one, identifying what fear is. I'm not going to define it as such. This is not a psychological kind of expertise as such. No, this is more of practical functionality. Something instills fear in you, identifying what that is, and then finding a way to address it. What is fear? I guess it's an emotion which makes us feel uneasy in some way because we feel insecure or we feel as if we'll miss out on something. Maybe that's something that's relatable to people. It could be an event. It could be a scenario. It could be, something in your mind that you preempt may or may not happen. And I've discussed this before. So if it's an event, let's say, I don't know, you're not a good swimmer and then you try swimming and you nearly drown, then that will instill fear, which will prevent you from maybe swimming again. So people usually say face your fears, etc., which is fine. But then sometimes it's not that easy. And a lot of people try to avoid that negativity per se. But you know what? A lot of negative emotions can also reinforce good habits. So I don't think we should avoid them. We should somehow face them and also accept that, look, these are our weaknesses and what we can do to either minimize them or make them our strengths. So in the case of fear of swimming, apart from doing the obvious of trying to learn swimming or practicing more, maybe trying to target the thing that makes you most fearful of that. It's just an example, which maybe or usually is drowning. It's different from saying, "Oh, I'm not a very good swimmer. I'm not a very fast swimmer." But if you're not able to swim, then people may say that, look, if there's a scenario, God forbid, and I am, I don't know, on a cruise or something, and I need to be able to swim, and I'm not able to do that, then what's going to happen? I'll die, right? I'm just being very, very blunt about it. So that's one thing. So that could be a situation. A scenario could be that I'm working, but I'm not so sure how stable this job is. There's a pandemic. There's a lot of economic turmoil. So you have this preemptive kind of idea in your mind that, look, this may or may not happen. You may even be getting signs. You may even be right. You may even be right that, look, this is going to happen, or I can see this coming. But you know worrying about it as such is not really going to help, but accepting that you have that fear, worrying about it, and then working towards a solution, as in, personally, I would confront, my boss that, look, is this what's happening? Be upfront with me. Should I start looking for another job? And, of course, look for other jobs, even if you are in a job and you feel that way. And, don't be complacent that even when the sun is shining, as it were, you can just lay back and just laze around. No, you should always be ready for change. I think, people who are more adaptive to change are those who are most successful, irrespective of pandemics, economic turmoil, hardships or mishaps in their lives. So that's something that we can consider. The other thing is maybe a situation which has occurred, maybe a disagreement with someone or something, maybe some sort of conflict, maybe people fear agitation, or it could be anything, violence. I mean, it could be anything, within the family unit or otherwise. There are a lot of things that can go on, which creates negativity. And let's say as you're growing up as a child, you may have been fearful of one parent more than the other because they would get angry or punish you in some way if you did not do X, Y, and Z, if you didn't do your homework, if you didn't do the chores, or whatever the case may be. And that positive reinforcement, that's not always a good thing. So and often in any case, threatening someone or using violence or blackmail, that is just not on. That we should not be doing that anyway. That does not toughen people up as such. I think that just creates more and more bullies, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So clear communication comes into it as well. If you're not happy with what someone is doing, instead of saying that, look, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, I will do A, B, and C. No, I think it should be more like, okay, you should introspect and say that, look, do you really think that you are doing well here? Or do you think this was right? Why did you think this was right? Try to understand it from their perspective. Chances are maybe there's a disconnect. And if people, have just not been bothering, at least it kind of sends the message in an albeit kind of embarrassing way that, look, hey, you're just kind of messing around and this is not going to work. So that's also important, dealing with fear in these ways. Um, with me, I have fears. They are usually associated with, finances because, this pandemic has affected a lot of people. And I am the only one who supports my family. I'm the sole breadwinner of the family, and I've mentioned this before. So I always have that concern that, look, if this drops, if this project drops, or, if I lose my job, what would happen? Does it really help to worry? To an extent it does, because it keeps you agile and it allows me to keep looking for work, creating opportunities, networking with people, improving my skills, going for interviews, all sorts of things, learning new things, and coming out of my comfort zone, which I've done a lot in the last 2 years, and it's unimaginable. I could not, even fathom doing some of the things that I've done. Nothing wrong, but what I'm saying, some of the types of work I've done in order to be able to monetize it, and it's good because it makes you more versatile, right? So but another inherent fear I have is, let's say you really want to achieve something and you know what that is. You found that thing or that person. Maybe it's a person who you want to be with, or it's, that dream job, or it's that thing you want to do. Maybe you want to become a professional singer, or you want to, do something, enter a niche industry. And then you think, well, what's been happening over the last few years? How have I spent my life? What do I need to do in order to be able to achieve that? What are the obstacles? And those obstacles, some of them just don't seem movable. Some of them just seem really rigid, and you just kind of think, this is in the way. I can't go over it. I can't go under it. I can't go left or right. I'm just stuck. Or sometimes that obstacle is actually your catalyst. Let me explain. That particular obstacle, which seems to hinder you from being able to do something, I've just realized, is actually the thing that could help you propel to do it as well. And it's easier said than done, but trying to understand that from a practical standpoint and then be able to implement it in such a way so that, you do what you've got to do, but you still are able to, fulfill your responsibilities. And hey, you could talk to your friends and your friends may say that, okay, well, no, if this is not working out, I'd advise you to do this, or, maybe you need to become independent, or you need to do, there are certain things, right? And you could listen to all sorts of people, and then it kind of it does confuse you, right? It becomes very perplexing. When you make an informed decision, it may be based on other people's advice, but ultimately you need to see, you can't compare yourself with other people. Even if you look at other people and you say, hey, I wish I had that. Again, I know this is cliche, you really don't know what else is going on behind the scene, even if it all looks happy. So you don't want to inherit their problems as such. Having said that, being thankful for what you have, being thankful for the fact that you have a family, or, you're in good health or reasonable health. Health is wealth, as they say. And being able to capitalize on those things which will help you progress or succeed in future. And that could be anything, actually. It could be something as simple as being able to communicate with people fairly effectively, which is something we're trying to achieve here. If people are willing to listen to you, if they think that what you say matters or makes sense, chances are you're going to get noticed, you'll be able to network more easily, and even if you don't have all those skills that are required for a specific role, you'll still be able to crack something. You'll be able to be absorbed or be recognized for something that you have, and then you can build up on that. And then you can branch out as well. So it allows you to divert yourself to, opportunities which may have not all otherwise seemed possible. I mean, I'll give you an example. I develop content as well. I do content writing. I did not even know, that there's a niche industry and it's termed content writing, you know, till a couple of years ago. But then obviously, when I lost my full-time job when the pandemic began in 2020, I had to do other things as well. I couldn't just sit around and say, hey, I'm not getting a job and, complain about it. I did a little bit, but, then that's where that worry kicks in and gives you this kind of adrenaline rush that, look, the time, the clock is ticking. I'm running out of time. I've got to do something or else. So in a way, you're not threatening yourself, but you're kind of giving yourself an ultimatum that, hey, I've got this much time to be able to do this, otherwise this isn't going to look pretty. This will become very unpleasant. And I also think that when, you play into your fears, your deepest inner fears, which you may only share with the person who you love or trust. It may be a family member, it may be your parents, or it may be your better half, or a very good friend. In addition to that, you also have to bear in mind that when you interact with other people, they will also have their own fears, which may or may not be obvious. And when you interact with people, if two people share a similar fear, that's when some people will feel that they're calibrated with each other. Oh, okay, you're also scared of this. Sometimes it's not absolutely obvious, and it can create a very kind of paradoxical bubble of where, there's just a load of fear, and then there's this kind of gap building up between two people, and it's separating them. It's important to be able to identify that, because if you don't, there can be lots of misunderstandings. So again, I always say don't assume things. It's always better to be clear. Be very straightforward and drop that political correctness or that diplomacy or that politeness. Politeness in the sense that don't sugarcoat things all the time. Just say what you've got to say. Obviously, say it in a reasonable way. There's a way to say it. So like if you really don't like someone, instead of saying I hate you, you can say, you know what, to be honest, I kind of find your company repulsive. Now that's still going to, come across as being quite, oh, wow. But at least you've said it. You don't need to be apologetic for it. You don't need to say I'm sorry. I tend to do that simply because it's part of my nature to be chivalrous, and a lot of people are. But then having said that, you've got to do what you've got to do. And the fear, again, and I've mentioned this in one of the videos earlier this week, the fear of not doing something or expressing something, or the hesitation of giving feedback, again mentioned in the previous video. If you don't do that, that is going to bite you back and consume you in some way at some point in your life. And that is not a good thing. You will regret it at some point. It will enact its own grieving process, which will ensue, because there would be something that you missed out on in life because you just didn't do something that you had to do or should have done at that time. And people say it's never too late. Unfortunately, sometimes if you miss a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, it could be. Then again, if you have learnt from what had happened and you're able to recreate that, scenario in terms of looking for an opportunity or being open to seeing opportunities which are almost invisible, then that will allow you to redeem yourself. And don't forget that fear is a very consuming thing. So if you let it get the better of you, not only can it stress you out, affect your mental performance, your memory, and other things, it makes you inattentive, it can make you agitated, it can cause you to snap at people who otherwise care and matter for you. You can start acting really out of character, which is the last thing that you want to do. So, to summarize all of this, it's coming up to 15 minutes now. Fear is simply something that affects you in a negative way. It prevents you from being able to pursue, say, or do something because there's a hindrance. What if? and maybe you have all these assumptions in your mind. Take away that what if and say when. When I do this, this will happen, or it may not. And that or it may not should be in small letters. This will happen. When I tell someone that I don't like your company, they are going to get offended. Yeah. Now I'm going to do it. Or maybe they won't. Can you see the difference? Similarly, if you want to do something but you're fearful of failing, say, I may just fail. And it's happened to me. And I've failed. And I've failed badly. And then I've got up again. And I've done the same thing. I may have failed twice, thrice. Eventually, I'm learning from my mistakes. Be cognizant of what those mistakes are. That you are going to be a stupid person if it's ignorant, if you keep repeating the same mistakes and you're not realizing that this is where you're going wrong. But if you make a different mistake each time, you are learning. And again, I don't want to sound cliched, but some of the most important inventions in the last century or so have simply emerged because of people's perseverance to be able to do something and fail several times and even be ridiculed for their concepts or ideology, to only be able to create things which, has helped us, has helped mankind, has helped humanity, without which we would not be able to do what we're doing today. We've got so kind of, immersed in technology and, artificial intelligence and other things where sometimes we forget, it gets blurred that, look, where did this all originate from? If electricity hadn't been conceptualized, we can't really say it was invented, but if it wasn't discovered that this is something that we can harness, we would not be using any devices. So it's one of those things. Or the invention of the light bulb, so that we have artificial light. With that, I will stop and I will simply say, drop the fear, face what you've got to face, and be prepared for the worst. Remind yourself that the worst may happen. It may actually happen, or it may not. Don't steer away from it. Don't run straight into it. Simply approach it as calmly as you can, and remind yourself that you are doing it for a reason. And that reason is something positive. For your own personal development, to earn more money, to support your family, to be able to, enjoy the better things in life. Just ask yourself this question. You all have a special skill that no one else has. In some way. If you're a good singer, you can sing differently than compared to other people. There are plenty of good singers. If you're good at a certain sport, you will play it in a slightly different way than everyone else. We are humans. We have that kind of analog variation. We're not robots. We all will do things differently. If you compare the top tennis stars, they will all have a slightly different style of play. Yes, there will be a consensus that this is the right way to, serve a ball or a stroke or whatever it is. I'm not an expert, but you understand what I'm saying. So, identify what those skills are and work towards doing something that you want to do. Something which gives you that positive reinforcement to continue doing it and which you also enjoy, which you have a passion for. Instead of just sitting behind a desk and saying, hey, I'm doing this because I have to. Yeah, do it. Continue doing it. Don't quit your job. But also think of other ventures. There's nothing wrong with dreaming. The problem is when that dream just stops there. You don't actually start acting upon it. And it may not necessarily be in the process or the cycle that you expect. That, okay, let's say I want to be a professional singer. I need to approach, record labels and, share my samples. Things like that. Yes, that is there. But there are other ways as well. Apart from just networking, apart from maybe performing, maybe doing something for charity, there's so many things you can do. You can be innovative. And the moment you start innovating, you don't have to be different from people. But I'm saying sometimes we all miss something because of consensus. We all follow a certain method. And that's not always necessarily efficient. So you start going out of the box and doing something different, pursuing what you want and focusing on that, and listening to constructive feedback, but not otherwise blocking out all the other criticism, which doesn't help. And people may call you crazy. And it's happened with me. And I hope that in a couple of years' time, if I make another video, I can also exemplify what I've been able to achieve in the same way. Okay, I hope you found this useful. For further tips and tricks, please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Please give this a like, a thumbs up. You can also find us on FB, Insta, LinkedIn. I'll share the links. And we also have our own website, solframe.in. That's solframe.in. And one last thing. You may have noticed that there may be certain errors in my videos. I only take one take. I don't really edit anything apart from the background noise and, correcting the color. And even then I realize that sometimes there are issues with the video quality and all that. I make sure that my videos are theatrical, as in I don't take multiple takes. And I want you guys to be able to approach life that way. It's not always take one, take two, let me do it again. It's not exactly going with the flow, but it's being able to correct your errors as you go along and learn from them. And there would have been times where my tongue would have got twisted, I would have said something else, and I simply just say sorry and move on. And that's what I want you guys to do as well. Because that's what life is. Life is a continuous film. You don't get retakes as such. The camera keeps rolling and you need to be able to do something with it. Anyway, do take care and bye-bye.